de cola!
Hello, welcome back to Drama Storyline, Red Swan. After Do-yoon found out that there was something wrong behind the death of Chairman Kim, he ran looking for Won-soo in various places and finally found her. Won-soo herself felt uncomfortable with Do-yoon's presence. But Do-yoon explains that someone tried to kill Won-soo and they weren't ISIS. Won-soo was confused by what Do-yoon said. Do-yoon said that his friend died in Manila, Philippines. And the perpetrator who killed his friend is the same person behind the attack on Won-soo. Hearing that, Won-soo became curious, who wanted her to die? Do-yoon still can't answer it, but he knows the characteristics of the perpetrator. Won-soo still didn't believe it, and when she wanted to leave, Do-yoon suddenly grabbed her hand. He said, "Don't trust anyone and I will protect you." 2 years ago, Do-yoon and Ju-yuk were summoned by their superior, the Police Commissioner General. He assigns Do-yoon to the Presidential Security Force. So Do-yoon will watch the president at close range and record the people the president meets and everything the president does. Then report all that to the commissioner. Do-yoon objected, because all information obtained while on duty should be kept confidential. But the commissioner emphasized that he would be the one responsible. And Ju-yuk will be assigned to the Seoul Metropolitan Police Department's intelligence agency. He will investigate the tactical funds saved by people who met with the president personally. And no one should know about this, except them. Ju-yuk said that there was an 8-star gang, namely a Chinese immigrant gang, in Incheon. It turns out that their headquarters is in Manila and they manage gambling, drugs and also assassins. Regarding the death of leader Kim, Ju-yuk has not yet received definite evidence. But he received information that Wayne's group laundered their tactical funds through 8-star Fortune Casino. And Ju-yuk will investigate all of that. Do-yoon returns to guard Won-soo when she works as the director of the Nal Foundation. While at the office, Won-soo's older brother came and asked Won-soo to keep an eye on Yong-min, Ju-yuk's younger brother, because he always interfered in their affairs. But then Won-soo plans to change the accounting firm and prepares to make the foundation an international organization. Because they have to prevent Chairman Park from taking foundation funds. Because the foundation must be transparent and become an international organization. Her brother doesn't agree, because they just need to launder their money. Then Won-soo confirmed that they would not launder money for the Wayne Group again. Her brother is curious whether the Won-soo attack was really ISIS's mastermind. Won-soo didn't know, because there was no evidence at the crime scene. Her brother was worried that maybe Chairman Park had ordered the attack. Won-soo comes to Tira's house. Tira is curious, since when did Won-soo know about her relationship with Young-gak? And that's been since the first time Tira showed Tira's son, Jun-hee, to her. Won-soo emphasized that she would not divorce her husband, even though he was cheating on her. Tira is confused why she doesn't want to divorce, even though they have never slept together. Won-soo was angry, because when she caught them, they didn't lock the door. She doesn't want to risk her marriage and reputation because of someone like Tira. Tira said that when Young-gak cheated on her, she was the one who took care of all the girls and cleaned up the mess. And Tira plans to have another child with Young-gak because Won-soo has lost her child. The Wayne family needs an heir to continue their company. But Won-soo instead told Tira and her son to go to Switzerland because Won-soo wouldn't divorce her husband. When Won-soo was about to leave, Tira told her a secret. A reason Young-gak wants to marry Won-soo. It turns out that when Young-gak proposed to Won-soo in Africa, Tira was pregnant and was in Japan to get away from Chairman Park. And at that time Young-gak was dating a celebrity, Ko Jin-hee. After they spent the night together, he found the woman dead beside him due to a drug overdose. And if there is an issue that the group's successor used drugs with a woman who ultimately died, it will create a commotion. And it turns out that at that time Young-gak had a fiancée who was arranged for him by his family, but their marriage failed because the woman had intelligence. At that time, Won-soo's public image was good. Golfer turned charity angel. So Young-gak flies to Africa on the orders of Chairman Park. So Won-soo has been used by them to cover up their son's rottenness. But Won-soo didn't budge and still wouldn't divorce. Of course, that made Tara frustrated. At home, Won-soo meets Chairman Park. Chairman Park plans to take Jun-hee, Tara's son, into her house as Young-gak's son. Of course Won-soo refused. She would take care of Tara and her son, so she asked her mother-in-law not to interfere. Young-gak called his wife and asked her to chat. Won-soo asked why Young-gak married her. Young-gak answered, because he fell in love with her at first sight. And whatever happens, Young-gak will not divorce her because Won-soo is his. Then Won-soo asked Young-gak to send Tara abroad with Jun-hee. But it seems Young-gak can't do that because he can't fight with his mother. In the morning, the servants were busy with a family photo shoot. It turns out there were already Jun-hee and Tara there. Youngmin's wife was confused why Tara and her son were there. Youngmin thought it would be fun because they would be doing family photos. Then Won-soo came and was surprised to see Jun-hee sitting in that chair. And Young-gak just kept quiet and couldn't do anything. Won-soo meets her mother-in-law and feels disappointed. Then her mother-in-law took out Jun-hee's DNA test results. Her mother-in-law explained that because of Chon-hee, Won-soo's son died 5 years ago and kept it a secret. So, her mother-in-law felt she couldn't keep this a secret. So, it's time for Jun-hee to be given a new family name. Won-soo doesn't care whether Jun-hee will be given his father's surname. But she couldn't bear to think of Jun-hee as her son. But her mother-in-law remained adamant. Because Won-soo doesn't want to divorce and have another child with Young-gak. So, her mother-in-law needed a successor to the Win group. But whatever her mother-in-law said, that child would never be able to replace Won-soo's child, Chon-hee. Won-soo doesn't want people to see family photos and mistake Jun-hee for Chon-hee. But her mother-in-law did have such a plan. And they also took a family photo and Jun-hee took part in the photo shoot. The next day, Won-soo was surprised to see them taking Chon-hee's things out of his room and putting Jun-hee's things in. She was very sad and disappointed. She told Mrs. Bayan that she would be temporarily unavailable. Then Mrs. Bayan called Do-yoon to immediately escort director Won-soo. While driving, Won-soo almost hit a truck, then Do-yoon came over and got into her car. Won-soo wants to be alone and asked Do-yoon to come out. But Do-yoon didn't want to and asked Won-soo to pretend not to see him. And Won-soo left in the car with him. They went to the beach and Do-yoon followed Won-soo from behind. Do-yoon saw Won-soo cleaning her feet from the sand. Then Do-yoon took a handkerchief and cleaned her feet and put on her shoes. Then Won-soo said that she doesn't trust people. And everything Do-yoon said at that time, Won-soo didn't believe a word. She will continue to suspect Do-yoon. So Do-yoon has to bring evidence to make her believe it. And from now on, Won-soo asked Do-yoon to only carry out his duties as a bodyguard. It turns out that Won-soo went to the family villa and saw Young-gak already inside the villa. Won-soo went inside, while Do-yoon stood guard outside. Young-gak had a feeling that Won-soo would go to the villa. He asked if Won-soo wanted to have another child. Young-gak is curious, but is it actually himself or his child that Won-soo doesn't want? Won-soo felt it wasn't important and didn't want to discuss it. Won-soo just found out that Youngak only needed her to cover up his dirty scandal. That's why Youngak married her. But Youngak says that he loves her. So, let's have another child. Then Youngak hugged Won-soo, but Won-soo didn't want to be hugged. Youngak gets annoyed and tries to kiss her, and Do-yoon sees them from outside. He entered the villa and stopped Youngak. Do-yoon asks Youngak to calm down, because if director Oh Won-soo gets hurt, it could be difficult for everyone. Won-soo comes out of the villa and Do-yoon escorts her. Tira came to Youngak's apartment. She asked his bodyguard to open the door. And when she entered, Youngak was sleeping with a woman in bed. She woke the woman and asked her to come home. Do-yoon was invited to the Wayne IS office by a female bodyguard. She shows Wayne's CCTV monitor room. That's where they monitor the security of VIPs. Then she also took him to the practice room. Mr. Park introduced Do-yoon to the other bodyguards who were there. And Mr. Park offers Do-yoon to do a little exercise. Then Do-yoon practiced with one of the bodyguards there. Mr. Park saw Do-yoon's technique and way of fighting. And finally Do-yoon nimbly defeated him. Mr. Park praised him because Do-yoon was still as agile and accurate as before. When looking at the family photo, Mr. Park asked Do-yoon to pretend not to see it. Then Do-yoon asked about Chairman Kim. Did he die of a heart attack and died in the main palace? Mr. Park was surprised why Do-yoon suddenly asked that. Do-yoon reasons that his junior from the police asked him. Mr. Park was a bit angry when he heard that and asked him to look for that information on the internet. Do-yoon asked for recordings from the past week regarding the whereabouts of Deputy Leader Youngak. Then Do-yoon checked the recording and there was nothing suspicious. Then, he looked at Chairman Kim's recording again. He realized that Chairman Kim did not die in the main palace, but elsewhere. The culprit must be someone in the Wayne group who is related to these people. Thank you for watching Raid Swan episode 3. And I'll be back in episode 4.